I've been a self-taught artist since the age of 5.
Wow.
Been in business for the last 41 years.
Okay.
My process is very unique. I started as a textile printer. Um, when I went into business itself, I had a company called Bustertising, which was a T-shirt company in Baltimore. And by way of New Orleans, I went to school in New Orleans. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans, and a lot of times what would happen is the kids needed T-shirts, so they would go to the bookstore, and the bookstore's prices were a little too high. So I actually turned my the attic of my dorm into a printing company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now that's hot. That's very, very hot. But go back a little bit. Tell us a little bit before you even got into t-shirts and things of that nature.
Well, I've always been able to create. I come from a creative family.
Okay.
My mom is a designer, and I had a brother that was an artist, a sister that's a dancer, and another sister that's a poet. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
we just were always, supported with any kind of creating that we would do. It was always an open thing.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I leave that left? Okay, so now, so you started a T-shirt company over the dorm. So did you create that because, like you said, the shirts was too expensive, or were the shirts like from me when I was in college, they was ugly, point
Oh
blank
no, no,
period.
no! I did it to make money.
Okay.
I was a photographer on campus, and another way for me to make money was to do the paraphernalia
Okay.
designs for all the Greek organizations.
Cool.
And of course, with the Greek organization, it's going to be two colors: red and
Hmm.
white, pink and green, blue and white, gold and black,
The purple
purple
and
and gold.
gold. Right. Right.
So, but if you were not Greek, then I didn't have anything for you.
Oh.
So I came up with a black and white line.
Okay.
And the black and white line has carried me for 42 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us what brought that on, and how were you so creative to keep it going for 40 years?
Well, my technique. If I actually I draw with a knife. I draw with an X-Acto knife.
Okay.
So, for lack of terms, when I'm working and designing, I cut stencils by hand.
Okay.
Something as Neanderthal as if you were to go and carve your initials into a tree with a knife.
Mhm.
I take a piece of film and I do the same thing
Okay.
and cut a stencil to create my work. So
Now,
my work is always negative and positive.
now isn't that a class? Because I can remember back in the day, and I'm not knocking your
Hmm.
business, but there was a class that I can remember that I did as an X-Acto knife, and we would have to do the stencil, and then we would lay it down, and we would go over it,
That's
and then we
correct.
would put
You put ink at the top of the well, pull
and
it
then pull
through.
it down. And if we
Exactly.
didn't want everything to be inked, we would have to use. I don't think it was like that blue tape, but it was like a tape, and we would cover. We could do one part of it, and then have to cover the other side, and then open up the side that we didn't do. Is it something
It's
like
on
that?
it's on that same
Like
accord.
screen painting?
It's screen printing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Okay, I remember doing that, and I love doing that because that gives you the time to kind of be open and create pictures and designs that the average person may not be able to do. So yeah. Now, did you do anything which was also similar? And I'm just remembering being in school, where it was like a piece of not clay, but like a rubber, and you would kind of chip it out, and then once you
Yeah,
chip it
you're
out,
cutting away. It's the opposite process of what I do. A lot of stamping is done
right,
that way.
called
Where
stamping.
I mean, when I was a kid, it was potato printing.
Right,
When I was in, we would cut away from the potato, cut a star, stick it in some ink, stamp it on paper.
right, right, right. Wow. Okay, so now you're over top of your dorm in the attic. Um, did you ever get in trouble for doing that? Was that
Well, they
something?
tried to shut it down because I began to make more money than what the bookstore
T-shirt,
was
right,
making. The kids were coming to me instead of going to the
right.
bookstore. So the bookstore approached me and told me I could keep it open if I paid them half of my profits.
Mm.
And that was any business sense said no go. So I shut it down for a minute and opened it right back up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're just jealous. If anything, they should have came at you and said, "Look, can you make shirts for us, and we'll pay you." That would be the common way. But
Well, considering I was in college for business, they should have promoted it.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. But wow, that's I don't even know what to say about that. But that was very good. So okay, now give us an idea of what type of shirts other than the Greek shirts. If somebody else wanted a shirt that wasn't Greek, how were you able to be creative with that?
well, in the beginning, I mean, I'm an artist, so I would do a lot of family reunion shirts, team shirts, organization shirts, just anything you think you would need a T-shirt for. I was not a screen printer. I was an artist that printed.
Okay.
So as opposed to going somewhere and you have classic designs that you can pull from a tree for a family reunion, I would give you a design my way versus just something that you can see anywhere else. So the whole idea was to just make sure your image did not look like anybody else's.
Now let's go back a little bit. Where did you get your supplies from? How were you able to get those, and where did you get them? And
When I moved back to Baltimore, I found a company that was in this area called Jewelin Company with the T-shirts.
okay,
And I found out about that because I was at a printing company to see about getting something done for myself, and I saw a box, and I looked at the label to see where they got their shirts from, and I went back and I ordered shirts myself,
okay,
and just got myself on a wholesale level so that I could, keep the shirt costs down and keep the profits up.
right. Now, did you do this prior to while you was in school, or
I did it while I was in school, and I did it.
after?
I moved back to Baltimore in 1987. I was in New Orleans from 77 to 87. My grandmother had cancer, so I moved
I'm
back to
sorry.
Baltimore. No, it's fine. And I continued to do my shirts then. And then I got a SBA loan from,
Small business.
from in Baltimore and bought some printing equipment. And printed shirts for about probably 20 years.
Okay.
And at some point in time, one of my best friends, Larry Poncho Brown, who was a renowned artist, I started working with him and just transferred working, doing T-shirts into going into fine art. So something as simple as the T-shirt company being called Buster Ties and evolved into fine art under the art of Karen Y. Buster.
Okay. I just got to go back one more time.
Sure.
Why did you leave New Orleans? I get it that your people were sick, but oh my God, you know.
Well, I mean, I go to New Orleans once a year. I'm going to go to New Orleans Monday, so I go
Oh my
back.
goodness,
I go back on a regular.
I love me some New Orleans.
And that's where the flavor of my work comes from.
Okay.
If you look at it in my pieces, you'll see that a lot of my work is laid back, lackadaisical, musical, whimsical, and it's us.
Okay. Yes. All right. So now tell us now of what are you up to? Are you still doing shirts?
Oh, I am not on that accord.
Okay.
My main focus has been my fine arts. It's been I have serigraphs, high pull prints. I'm working in copper. I'm working in steel. I'm working acrylic. So I went from the pieces that were on the wall to pieces that are now standing upright.
Right.
So the smallest sculpture being 2 foot tall, the tallest sculpture being 4.5 feet, half-inch steel.
So now, when you make these items out of steel, I know back in the day you have to melt things. So is this the same type of a method where you melt and you hammer it?
No,
And you cool it?
it's done a lot differently.
Okay.
Yeah, done a lot differently. But the key to anything is the foundation. So I make sure I get that foundation laid out, which goes back into the cutting and goes back into the sculpting before I can do anything else. Um, I don't know if you've been to Baltimore down by the train station.
Mhm.
I mean, I was the person probably the last 10 years that would go out there and stand in front of the train station and look at that sculpture in front of it
Mhm.
and imagine that being mine.
Oh wow.
So,
So you can create things, like when you go from New York Avenue into DC, you can create sculptures more. I've seen yours, but can you create sculptures in that, or is that considered a type of your sculpture?
well, anything can be done.
Okay.
Anything can be done. Anything can be fabricated. then that's when you start pulling in other hands that can handle what has to go with sculptures of that size or magnitude. You're talking about engineers who would understand, what kind of dimensions they have to have in the ground to make sure the sculpture stays up.
Right.
The most important thing that has to happen is that it doesn't fall over.
Right.
I'm nowhere near engineer to know how deep it needs to go down. So then you start bringing in people to go on that facet. I haven't gotten anything that size yet.
Okay.
But I am in the process of working on contemplating doing something about 12 feet tall.
Okay. It makes me mad. I don't remember everything about that particular sculpture, but number one, the person don't even live here. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was China or whatever. But it makes me mad because this is D.C. So as you come into D.C., leave out of D.C., you see that. Why couldn't they have found somebody that is either born and raised in D.C., have been in D.C. forever? That's just me, because I'm blown when I see sculptures or see anything that's large within D.C. and you Google it and it's like, okay, they're not even from here.
Right. Well, I mean, the bottom line is knowledge is power.
Right.
So, like I say, I would go stand in front of that sculpture and imagine what I can do.
Right.
So once I put that in my head, what I can do, now that's the direction I'm going to go in. I can only say, had I not seen that sculpture by whomever made it, I may have not had that thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm the kind of person, I flip anything that I feel that's negative into something positive, so I can pull something from it, to make the better myself of what I'm doing.
So what got you from doing T-shirts to sculptures? Was it something that I don't know. I don't know how to.
Well, it was evolution. Out. It's evolution. You have to keep coming up with something new. Like I said, I'm 42 years in the game. So what I was doing when I got started at 17, 18, at 60, I can't be doing. So it has to be some kind of evolution between that time, so you can see how my work has evolved.
And ladies and gentlemen, she did say 60, and there's not an ounce of gray age looking this lady. And just to throw this in, I'll be 55 next week, and I'm right behind her. And I just want to rub my skin a little bit against her. Hopefully, I can be 60 and look as fabulous as you.
I keep plenty of Bengay, Epsom salt, so I know how to soak my feet at night, and
goodness.
I try and walk upright.
But I'm talking about the face. The face is beautiful. I mean, your skin is gorgeous.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay, no, that's just me. But okay, now I know on your website and things of that nature, you have. I want to say, was that a sculpture that you sit in, or was that just a wall piece? It looked like it was like.
No, that's a piece
that
actually it stands up.
Okay.
It stands up. So,
okay.
Again, that's this is my evolution into this year.
Phase.
Yeah, where I'm going. I foresee this being probably one of my greatest phases, because it's a total change of pace for what people have known my work to be. So I'm looking forward to it, and as long as I keep that excitement, then I can't imagine the direction that I'll go in.
Now, have you gone to the farmer's market on 8th and Penn to do any selling of your wares, or where can people?
No, basically, my website. Okay. Again, I'm getting ready to go down to New Orleans for a convention. I just did a couple of events in Baltimore. I've done some home shows. The most important thing is that I go where I have people, and that I can set it up and do what I have to do. When I come with a booth, so it needs to be conducive space-wise for me to really set up the things that I need to do to sell.
Right.
Again, at my age, I will say that I've been toting and pulling and lifting and tugging.
Tired doing that now.
Yeah, so you got to think smart. So
right.
be it this website, being Facebook. Young lady just asked me about Instagram. Fortunately, I have nieces and nephews who point me in those directions. I think I said to one of my youngest nieces, I'm going to tweet somebody, and she said, "Don't ever say
Say
that
that, yeah. You're not
again."
gonna tweet nobody.
Well, hey, that's what
Oh
you
no, I would have
stay in your
said that
lane.
too. I would have told you
Stay in your
no, no,
lane.
no. You ain't
Know
gonna
where you're
tweet
supposed to get your
nobody.
help and where the support comes from. So that's what happens for me.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so walk us through the process. The first process I want you to walk us through is just how what do you do to start from start to finish to create?
I see it. First thing I have to do is see it,
Okay.
and I see it in my head, and then I have to be able to pull what we considered lights and darks, negative and positive spaces. When I was very young, 5, 6 years old, if you can imagine, when the photographs came from the store, I never looked at the photographs. I looked at that negative strip.
Mm-hmm.
That negative strip was what got my eye for me to really look at it and want to figure out who was who and what was what just from looking at that strip. So my eye has always kind of been in tune to that. So my mind is in tune to seeing things negative and positive, everything that I look at. I take color out of it and I just see the negative and positive. So no matter what I'm creating or the direction I want to go in with it, that's where I start. A lot of my pieces, well, most of my pieces are, you see a lot of geometrical shapes. I love geometrical shapes and I love repetition. So, and that goes back to my T-shirt days because I wasn't able to do what was considered color separation. So my idea of bringing color into the work was to use patterns.
Okay.
So everything, anything that to where I am now starts from that initial uh, cutting of a pattern.
Okay. So now once you've gotten the idea and design, what is the next step? Are you carving it out on a piece of paper? What?
I'm drawing. I'm drawing with a knife onto a piece of film. So I'm actually cutting a stencil by hand
Okay.
to go to the next step there, whether or not it's fabricated, whether or not it's printed, whether or not it's a serigraph or a hand pull print or a lithograph, which is going to be a machine done print. Everything has to have a solid foundation.
Okay.
So if any of the work, be it a sculpture, no matter what, it has to have that solid foundation. The only thing that's been done differently was when I've been working in copper. Copper's done. I do that a little differently.
Okay. So now you're gonna do the sculpture. So you have edged the design. I don't want you to tell people's everything because I don't want anybody to take that from you. But can you
Well, I
give us a
mean,
little bit of?
the Colonel don't give you all the recipes for
Okay.
the chicken,
I
but
know.
I
Just so
also
we can kind of see
understand.
the
I also
idea.
understand that there's a higher power that it has nothing to do with knowing the technique as much as it is spitting out the bottom line. So I don't have a problem with showing a person how to screen or showing a person how to cut. That's it's just like anything. If you're a carpenter and you give me a hammer and a nail and tell me put the carpet down, I'm not going to do it the way that probably I'm supposed to do it, just
Right,
based on
right.
to it. So even with what I'm doing, I've been shown, directions in terms I have to basically form my mind to uh, maybe. Do you remember Etch a Sketch?
Yes.
With Etch a Sketch, when you draw, the key to Etch a Sketch is you can never pick up your pen. It has to just keep going, a connected line.
Right.
Okay, same thing. When I'm working with my designs for sculpture, we can go back to the Etch a Sketch. I have to come up and create work that I cannot have broken lines with because they have to connect to be able to be formatted to print
Okay.
or to be cut. So now I'm learning how to refocus my thoughts and my images for different projects.
Okay.
Something that I may do for paper, something I may do for copper, something I may do for steel and sculpture, something I may do for acrylics.
Okay.
So I don't know any other way of really seeing what happens, because it's up in here where this, the stuff evolves and takes place, up in the physical side of what has to happen.
Well, you did say about teaching. Do you plan on doing any classes? Because I'll be the first one. I know your items are very expensive, so I'm quite sure your classes are going to be at least $200-300. But I would
No,
I
I
would want to
mean,
take a class
I'm taking
to be able to
pieces. I'm
create
taking
something.
pieces to New Orleans that start at $10.
Oh wow.
You
Okay.
know, so I just try and make sure I have something for everybody. You have
Right.
people that are into collecting,
Mhm.
and with collecting, they may only want to have the only one, which makes it original.
Right.
You have people that only want that one, and they don't want anybody else to have it.
Right.
So that's your original, and they are willing to pay for
Right.
original.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
have people who want certain edition sizes. You can do an addition to a million if you want to, but my edition sizes of my work is only 100.
Oh, okay.
So therefore, after the 100, there are no more. So they're assigned a number of pieces up to that. So that's a different class. Then you have open pieces. Open pieces, you can do them and keep doing them and redoing them and print them over and over and over. But then your price points, there might be a $35 print.
Mhm.
But what I will say is, whether it's a $35 print or a $400 print, the foundation to make that image, they're on the same level.
Okay. Okay. So now, like I said, for me, back to the class.
Well, I won't say I haven't had classes, formal classes. I've had people where they've come to my studio and I've showed them a couple things. I've done recently I've done some paint parties. I've done
Oh,
some
cool.
therapeutic parties
Okay.
where basically it's art therapy for different individuals, which is something totally different, but
Yeah,
it's
you
a
need to
lot heavier
elaborate
than
about that.
yeah, it's a lot heavier than what a paint party would be, because what happens is you come to, or I go to whatever it's for, and you will do a design or create a painting, but you can't talk. Music is cool. I put on music. We get the first 5 minutes of you saying whatever you have to say to the person to your left and to your right.
Oh my
But the
God.
whole idea, the therapeutic side of it, is for you to really get into creating.
Okay.
And you'd be surprised what happens once a person just get into their work versus paying attention to what's going on the left and right, phone, and all that kind of thing.
Now, I will take that class. You may have to put a piece of tape across my mouth because it's kind of hard for me to stop talking. But I really I'm going to check into that because I think I'd be very interested. Now, let's just say for me, okay, I have a picture of me and my boyfriend, per se. Um, how would a person, you didn't give any information, but we're going to make sure we do that at the end. How would somebody get in contact with you, and what would be the procedures from step to step to step to step? So I got this picture. Here's my picture.
So is
Now,
that for me to do it or for you to do it?
for you to do it? I
Well,
would like for you to create something.
which
Here's
I've
my-
done. I've done commission pieces before, and
Okay.
what I tell people is, I need to see it,
Okay.
and I can tell you as soon as I see it if I can do it.
Okay.
Because once I see it, if I'm able to see those lights and darks, and those negatives and positive spaces in your image, I can recreate it. If I can't see that, then I can't do it.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then I kind of like take it from there, and we'll run with it for you.
Okay. So hypothetically, let's just say a picture the size of the screen, and I know you don't want to really probably quote.
Well, the size really doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
It would be the imagery and
Okay.
how much work has to be done. Because
Okay.
anything you do, you can reproduce it up to whatever size you wanna make it. Up from the very beginning.
It's just the dark and lights.
Yeah, for me, it's
Okay.
that. It's for me. It's for me to
Okay.
be able to look at it and see if I can, pull it out. I mean, I do things like look through my eyelashes. I close my eyes enough so that I can see just straight through my eyelashes. If I can look through my eyelashes and pull out lights and darks, then I can recreate what I gotta see. That's
Okay.
how I see it next.
You're going to have to teach a class on that because I'm trying to do that now. That's not really working.
Yeah, I
for
don't
me.
even know how to tell you to do it, but
Oh my
that's how it's always been.
You are so interesting. I mean, I've learned so much. Okay, now the paint classes. Do you have anything coming up soon?
Actually, no. you know, like I
Or
said, I was asked to do it. I was asked to do it for a mental health class. I've been asked to do it for clients who are HIV positive. I've been asked to do it for a birthday celebration for kids. So it depends on the direction. I mean, you know, we all have paint parties, and you know, sipping paints. I've done that kind of thing, but um, I'm I prefer to do the therapeutic classes because not only I get more out of it, the clients get more out of it, and
And
I
it's
see I reap a bigger benefit bit internally in terms of what it does for them. So it's a different kind of.
is that a one-on-one or is that more of a group setting?
It's group setting.
Oh, okay.
It's group setting. I
So
mean, it can be one on
I'm gonna
one.
have to find me a group of people.
Yeah,
to
it can
do
it
that.
can be one on one, but who you talking to if it's just you? So you know,
Oh,
you
got you,
it's-
got
yeah,
you,
yeah.
got you.
But
Okay.
I mean, like I said, the most important thing is that you kind of like just get into what it is that you're doing and get into what it is that you're feeling and create.
Okay, because I'm an artist, but I really wish you could kind of go back a little bit, what you was telling me outside, a little bit about yourself and the type of work that you do and the type of people that you work with, because that touched me, and you know why it touched me, because of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So just,
Well, I've been in the human services field for 43 years, from being an EMT,
mm,
working on an ambulance, to working as PRP and mental health, with working with clients, both homebound and group settings, to working with uh, the Department of Health, where I'm working with as case management. So, I mean, all of it boils down to just being able to help people.
right,
So, and that's how I see art, because art helps people. And
right.
that's why I say I like that therapeutic side, because that's what it can kind of do. So I think my human services background just kind of like spills over into everything else that I'm doing work-wise.
Now, making like the copper pieces or your other pieces are made out of
Steel.
steel.
I'm dealing with canvas, I'm dealing with steel, I'm dealing with paper, I'm dealing with acrylic, and I'm dealing with copper.
Okay.
Acrylic, copper, and steel are something brand new for me.
Okay.
The canvas and the paper is something I've been doing all along.
Okay, so the steel and the copper. One, would that be a class that you would teach?
No, no, because it's. I say that from. I mean, I could give you the basics again, but I feel my way through that. You know, one thing that I found out with working with the copper, that because it's embossed and I'm taking something and I'm bending the copper, I'm learning that if you put two lines, if you make a square, if you make a square in a piece of copper, then you have now sealed all the air inside the copper. So instead of making four lines, you have to make 3 lines. So that as you're doing that, the air that's in the copper can escape before you start doing anything inside of it.
Oh.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I see. That's a little more technical.
It's a feeling
Right.
of what it's doing,
Okay.
and it's probably neon backwards. I don't know, but that's how I taught myself to do it, and that's how I feel my way through what I'm doing.
Okay, because to me, it reminds me of clay. I'm real good at clay. You get a square, and I gotta put my mic down a little bit, and you gotta kind of mold it and knead it.
You gotta knead
and
the
then,
air out
and
of
if
it.
you don't do it right, you got too much air, and it'll pop,
Exactly.
and then it doesn't. So
Exactly.
would you say the materials that you're using, is it maybe not as soft as clay, but is it?
Yeah, it's
kind
nowhere near as forgiving as what clay would be.
Okay.
Because with clay, the bottom line, because you have to knead it and get the air out of it. If you don't, then you can just push it back together and do
Right.
it again.
And
You
start
can't.
all over again.
I can't
So
do that with
you can't. So once you've started,
I got to make
that's
it work.
it.
I have to make if I wanted to go left and it didn't go left and it went right, now I have to design something as
from
what's going on that right side.
Wow, okay.
So,
So it's not like something that you can kind of like melt back
No.
and start over.
no.
Wow.
Well, I can't. Now, whether or not they do that, I don't know, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So have you done copper and metal together?
No, but my copper pieces are probably like about 40 by 40 actual if you were to look at them, you would think they were drawings.
Oh, wow.
And they're not. They're embossed because I'm going on the other side of it, and I'm actually pressing through it to give it a what we call a relief.
Okay.
So there's other. If you rub your hand across it, you could feel the, in and out of it.
Wow.
Which when I think about that, I had a young man that was blind,
Mhm.
and that's what he did. He came to my piece and he put his hand on the copper, and that's how he felt what was going on.
Okay.
And for me, it was the greatest high and the greatest compliment because he showed me something else that my work was doing that I didn't realize it was doing because he could feel the pieces and what was going on.
Mhm.
So,
All right. Now you said the copper is not a class, so I'm assuming the other metals are not either.
no, not a class.
Okay.
Yeah, but
You
the-
see, I'm trying to work myself
mean-
into a class here.
No, I can show you. I can show you how to screen print. I mean, that's not.
Oh,
I don't
screen-
consider. I don't
That's
consider.
boring.
I had 42 years of it. It's been my
Oh my
livelihood.
goodness. I know, and I'm not knocking it. It's just, I guess for me,
You just
once you said that copper, I was like, ding, 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 ding. Okay, let's see how I can get myself into that.
Yeah, but I mean, I
Because-
can point you in the direction. I can give you the tools. I can tell you what to do.
Okay, now let me try to give somebody an idea. Is it copper? I think the pennies is made out of copper, right? So is it?
You have different thicknesses of copper, and I deal with a very thin copper
Okay.
that I can bend by hand.
Oh, okay, like you can make necklaces and stuff. Yes, maybe.
Not that thin, but I'm able to make an impression in it
Okay.
by hand.
Okay.
So it's not so hard that I can't physically take a tool. I take a metal tool and I bend it.
Oh,
by
okay,
hand.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm assuming now the metals is not that.
Oh, metals is a whole different story. Yeah.
Okay, well, give us a little bit of the story.
No, I can't give you
Oh,
that story. 'Cause
dang.
It's just a whole different process. That's just a whole different process.
Okay, because I would think metal would be like a lot of heat and fire.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that's a welder
Right.
understand the process. But I'm not a welder.
Okay.
So.
But your process is like a welder, but not.
Well, my mind is like a welder
Oh, okay.
because I have to think the way that they do what they do, and that's
Okay.
what I go back to you talking about the Etch-a-Sketch in terms of connections of lines. And if you look at my work, it's a lot of line work and a lot of patterns. So.
Now, is this something that you went to? I know you said you went to college in New Orleans, but
Mhm.
does the college teach you to create like this, or?
No, I went to school for business.
Okay.
You know, all my arts are just self-taught, and I guess kind of innate from being passed down through the family, from the creative side of things. But I've never gone to or had a art class.
Okay. Because I'm asking because, like I said, I guess I'm a person that would like to take classes. So I'm just trying to figure out, is there any way?
Do it. If you feel like you should take a class, do it, because that may be what jumpstarts you on to whatever direction you want to go in.
Okay.
You know, innovative people motivate me. I keep myself around innovative people for that
Right.
reason, because I have to get motivation as an artist to create. So I keep myself around positive people and innovative people to go forward.
Because when I did clay work, I really don't want to tell nobody what I did, but I would take a piece of clay, flatten it as flat as I could. I used some little thing that they had to make it flat, and then I put impressions throughout the clay, and then I would lay that piece over top of something. People were like, "Oh, how you do that?" And I was like, "I'm telling you, because it took me so long to create that." So I see why, on some levels, you may not want to share it, but then.
But you did that, and anybody could do the parts of that. Your creativity came in terms of how you did your impressions and so on and so forth. So that was your thing.
Right.
So
right.
you could tell somebody.
Right.
Nobody's up here but you.
I know. And then also too, I've taken the glass blowing, and of course when I took
Oh,
that
wow.
class,
That's something I always wanted to learn.
Oh my God! There's a
Yeah.
guy up off of Route 1 in Baltimore that's awesome, and he does a one-on-one. I like to be by myself because therefore you have me, nobody else to share your
I
time
agree.
with. And he was like, I was like, I want to make something else. I don't want to make like what everybody else. He just looked at me and was like, and I ended up creating something really, really pretty from him. So, you know, like I said, I'm very, very into it. We have to take one quick hot minute break, and then we're going to do a quick news break, and we'll be right back on this Late Night Whispers on this gorgeous radio. And I'm Coco. This is John. You want us to turn the mics on?
Let's turn to Nike. Colin Kaepernick did not like the design of a patriotic sneaker, and the footwear company nixed it. The company now under fire. Jared Max is here with the whole story. Hey, Jared.
Good morning, Dagan. The Nike Air Max 1 USA was created to celebrate our country's independence, but the sneaker will not be sold to the public. The sneakers were shipped to retailers, but then they were told to return them. The heel of the shoe features the Betsy Ross flag, 13 white stars in a circle, for the 13 U.S. colonies designed during the American Revolution. When former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick saw an image of the sneaker online, he contacted Nike. Made the face of the Nike ad campaign last year, Kaepernick, according to the Wall Street Journal, told Nike officials that he and others find the Betsy Ross flag an offensive symbol connected to slavery. Kaepernick, who transitioned from football player to activist, last played in 2016, initially was thought to be a dangerous choice by many for the Nike campaign, but since its launch, Nike sales have jumped. Great demand in the U.S. and China. Sales were up 4% in last year's fourth quarter to $10.8 billion, and this year the stock is up more than 15%. A Nike spokeswoman says that Nike has chosen to not release the Air Max 1 Quick Strike 4th of July, as it featured an old version of an American flag. Some sneakers made it to the black market and now are a hot item. And NFL Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer Tim Ellis spoke with Mornings with Maria about the challenge of rebranding the NFL after Kaepernick's controversies and the protests.
When you first came into the job, the whole NFL was being debated. You had the Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee. You had concussions. You had all this stuff going on. You come in and you do a rebranding, and I want to talk about that because obviously it is working.
I felt like when I came into the NFL, we had a little bit begin to let others tell our story, and we needed to get back to telling our own story and controlling our own narrative, and we needed to get back to the love and the joy of football, which is really why everybody watches the NFL.
So I want to point out this flag. It's traditionally called the Betsy Ross flag. It has 13 white stars on it. It was created during the American Revolution. Jack Brewer, what do you make of this?
This is America. These are the conversations we need to finally have. The reason why Colin Kaepernick stands against a flag like that is the same reason why I would not wear that flag on my feet. I wouldn't wear a Confederate flag. I live in Florida. When I drive through Central Florida, you still see the Confederate flags flying. That is the America that we live. Hold on. Let me finish. You have to understand that the American flag does not have 3 stars around it, right? Then, if you read 13 stars, I'm sorry. If you listen to the Star Spangled Banner that was written at the time that this flag was made, right? It talked about protecting everybody except for the slaves that were running away. Okay, so that represents a bad part of America for a lot of people. If I was Nike, I would put a modern day flag where all Americans have rights and everyone can stand up. I'll be at 4th of July in Cable, Wisconsin, lighting off fireworks, celebrating the best country on earth. But this flag has no place in my house, on my feet, and I don't want to see it.
But Colin Kaepernick is essentially running Nike, is he not?
No.
They're putting more and more of their brand on him if he calls the shots like this.
I think this situation is different, Dagan. I do not agree with everything Colin Kaepernick does. You know that. I don't agree with his approach to everything. I would have handled the situation much differently. I choose to go into the communities that are suffering. I don't blame things on our cops, but this situation is different because you have a time in American history where this country was built off slavery. And if you have a flag that was representing all those except for a slave, we weren't even a whole person in our Constitution when this flag was made.
I wanted to point out the Star Spangled Banner was written some years later, because the Star Spangled Banner was written
By Francis
about.
Scott.
Right. It was 1814 is when it was written, and it was in 1931 became the America's national anthem. So it was some years later. This is a flag that was designed during the American Revolution.
Even worse, Dagan, the American Revolution was fought
1770s.
In the 1770s. A black person was not even didn't even equal a person.
Let me ask you this,
during that time in American history.
But again, the Wall Street Journal goes into this. The flag's use is not that widespread. There have been some accusations that this flag has been appropriated by extremist groups, white supremacists. But if all people don't feel that way, is this really that risky a move for Nike to put this shoe out? And by the way, it is out and it's selling. There was one pair that went for $2,000. Sneaker exchanges. Yeah.
If you wore the shoe, right, or Jared Max wore the shoe, it wouldn't offend me. I'm not wearing the shoe.
Would you feel like I was a bigot or a racist if I wore that shoe?
Not at all, because it doesn't represent that to you. Just the same way that we had to debate about the American flag. The American flag represents the American soldiers, people over there fighting. That's a totally different conversation.
So you think Nike made the right move?
I think they made the right move.
I will leave it at that. We're going to talk about this more. See, we can have these conversations.
No, we can, because we love each other. We're Americans first.
Amen.
Well, we're back. Late Night Whispers on this gorgeous radio, and I had a clip that I just wanted to kind of discuss. For me, on this clip, I feel that Nike at first was all about black power, black this, black that. But then you want to bring out a shoe that has an old flag that we don't know nothing about, that we don't want to talk about. Why couldn't they have just brought a shoe out with the up-to-date flag? So for me, I think Nike is flip-flopping. I would not have bought it. I would not have sold it. I would not have even wanted to look at the shoe. But again, we're having so many problems: black this, black that, white this, white that. I just sometimes just wish that we could all just get it together and just love each other. But I don't ever see this ever happening, because with the president that we have, I don't even know what to say right now.
Well, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it. What I do know is that money is power.
Right.
And if you have something that I don't want to support, then I don't give you my money.
Exactly.
Once you start doing that, then it causes a rift for you to make a decision whether you want to continue to sell it, or you want to make a change and do something different so you can go back and get the masses money. If the masses that you're getting say, I want this, then, everybody's an individual and you make your own decision. What stays in my pocket stays in my pocket, and if I'm not going to support it, then I wouldn't support it.
Right. Exactly. Okay, we only have a few more minutes. I would like for you to tell everybody your name, address, email, whatever you want to let people know how to get in contact with you. I know you said you have something going on in New Orleans. You can let people know when that's going to be. And if you have anything coming up, whether it's even next month or whenever here, please let everybody know.
Again, my name is Karen Y. Buster. My website is KarenYBuster.com. You can find me on Facebook, Karen Y. Buster. The next show that I'm actually doing is I'm going to New Orleans for the Delta Convention, for about a week. Okay. That's up and coming now. So that's like a major convention that I will be introducing the sculpture pieces specifically for that show. That pretty much will end my year. I do have a home show that I'm doing there, but if I come with anything else, it will be, for me, last minute, and I just made a decision to do it when I'm back on this side of the world.
Okay. All right. I want to reach out to anybody and everybody. If you have a business, or if you're thinking about a business, or you got one more thing.
I just thought about my email address. My
Yeah,
email,
forgot. Sorry.
bustertizin@gmail, bustertizin@gmail.com.
Telephone number. Oh, you don't want to get that. Okay, give the email one more time.
Bustertizin, bustertizin@gmail.com.
Okay, and I'm glad you added that because we didn't want to forget about that. I want everybody to at least reach out and check her artwork. Her artwork is vicious, and I mean when I say vicious, it's like that. If anybody has a business, starting a business, want a business, or just thinking about a business, please reach out. Late Night Whispers at Gmail. My number is 202-510-2199. You can get me on Facebook, email, Spotify now, and whatever you want to YouTube as well. I do reach out to people who may be a little scared to promote their business. Please don't. I'll try to make it as easy. 1, 2, 3, you and me. I appreciate everybody watching us today. It's Late Night Whispers on this gorgeous radio, and I am Coco. Mwah. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.